All right, well, welcome to our first Career Education Night. We are excited to have you join us. It's great to see so many parents and students here tonight. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to be with us virtually tonight. This event is being recorded, and all materials, including the recording, will be posted on the Carlsbad Unified School District website. Soon after this event, you'll receive an email with this link. My name is Nicole Morsch. I'm a K-12 Pathway Coordinator for San Diego Imperial Region. I will be your MC this evening. Some of you may know me as previously working in Carlsbad Unified as a teacher, so I know there's a lot of students here. Before we begin, Monica Rosas with the San Diego and Imperial Counties Community Colleges would like to go over some housekeeping items. If you could all please be patient for just a couple of minutes while the interpreters make these announcements in Spanish as well.
Okay, so we do have interpretation for those of you in Spanish. For those of you interested in hearing this presentation, which will be in English, if you would like to hear in Spanish, go ahead and click in your control bar. You should see a little globe that looks like this here where I'm pointing. And click there and you're only gonna have one option, which will be Spanish, so just click there. What will happen is you will hear the interpreter and like in the background, you'll hear a little bit of English. So our interpreter Ruth will be helping us with the translation for this presentation. If you did not see the globe, can you please let us know in the Q&A button? We did disable the chat, but you can ask questions or reach out to us in the Q&A button, which it says Q&A and it has a little icon with like conversation bubbles. One other thing I needed to say is, and Nicole mentioned it, this meeting is being recorded. And she also mentioned that all of the presentations in the recording will be sent to you from the district. And I believe it's gonna live on the Parent University website. And now I'll turn it back to Nicole for the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Monica. So tonight is the kickoff event for the CUSD Career Education Night. It's our first of hopefully many events we plan to host throughout the year. Tonight you'll learn about in-demand careers as well as high school and college programs for students. You'll have the opportunity to hear from industry experts and ask questions about their academic path, their qualifications, their job duties. This event is in partnership with San Diego and Imperial Counties Community Colleges, San Diego North Economic Development Council, and Centers of Excellence for Labor Market Research. We value our strong relationship with our community partners and are so grateful they're sharing their time with us tonight. Now I'd like to welcome John Edwards from the Center of Labor Market Research. He's going to give us some interesting facts and data about the sectors we're highlighting tonight, which are biotechnology, business and entrepreneurship, health sciences, and information and communication technologies, which we sometimes refer to as ICT. John, we're taking it over to you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name is John Edwards, and I'm a research analyst with the Centers of Excellence here to talk to you about priority and emerging sectors and some in-demand jobs. So again, as Nicole mentioned, these slides will be available. So anything you see on the slides, don't worry about writing down, but anything I say, feel free to write down if you find it interesting. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, I am part of the Centers of Excellence, specifically the San Diego and Imperial Centers of Excellence, the one indicated by the star on the map. There are 9 centers in total throughout the state, and what we do is we provide labor market information to the California community colleges based on our region. That is giving community colleges information about jobs like how much they pay, annual openings, if there's job growth or decline, or the kind of education that's needed to get the job. And with this, community colleges can develop, retire, or adjust their programs to better align with the needs of employers. And the certificate or degree, you should be able to get a job with it, right? Unfortunately, not always the case. And I'll say this for colleges as a whole. whether it's private universities, UCs, for-profit, and even sometimes community colleges. Just because a program or degree is offered doesn't mean that after you graduate that it's going to pay well or that there's a lot of jobs out there for it. Do your research, do your due diligence. And I'm going to give you some resources today to help you with that. So there's 10 community colleges throughout the 2 regions of San Diego and Imperial. There's 9 community colleges in San Diego, Miracosta in the north, all the way to the South Bay, Southwestern College. And then if you go eastward, we got 1 community college in Imperial County, Imperial Valley College. So we're going to be touching on 3 topics today. We're going to talk a little bit about economic trends, the labor market, and career and industry sectors. So if you plan to work and live here in San Diego, it would be a good idea to know what San Diego will look like in the future. This forecast was done through Sandag back in 2018. They do forecasting and projections for San Diego, like commuting patterns, population change, and so forth. As you can see here, this is pre-COVID, of course. We were expecting San Diego to have a higher population, more housing, jobs, etc. And if you notice, population is almost double what the housing growth was expected to be, meaning housing was expected to get more expensive. It is more expensive. As of December of 2020, the median single family home price here in San Diego was $730,000. If you're curious what the high bar or the tallest bar is, $749,000 in November of 2020. And single family homes is excluding condos, mobile homes, or multifamily homes. A year prior, a single family home at the median price for December of 2019 was $655,000. So an 11.5% increase year over year. So let's say you're looking to buy a home. For the purpose of this exercise, we'll use the $730,000 figure. How much do you have to make to own one of these homes? Well, you and a partner would each have to make $94,500 annually to be able to afford one of these homes, which equates to about $45 an hour each one of you would have to be earning. And a cool trick, if you're ever trying to convert annual salary to wages, just divide the annual salary by 2080 and you get your hourly wage, and vice versa for hourly wage to salary. And I will say that prices are pretty inflated right now for multiple reasons. Low interest rates, monthly inventory is at 0.4 for San Diego. And just for comparison, back in 2007, when we were having the housing boom, it was at 5 months. So we're dealing with historic lows. But due to these factors and prices, we've gone from 23% of the population in San Diego being able to afford a home back in 2018 to now only 10% of the population being able to afford a home. Let's see. But let's say home ownership is not in your life plan. You don't want to deal with the stresses of owning a property. Let's say you just want to get by, just want to rent and enjoy the San Diego lifestyle. Well, the living wage would have to be your benchmark. And this is what you have to earn just to survive here in San Diego. $15.99 an hour, or doing that 2080, $33,000 annually. And this is just going to provide you renting a room. You're not going to have an apartment to yourself, traveling to work with most likely being public transportation, groceries, utilities, no travel, no restaurants, no extras. $15.99 is the bare minimum you have to make just to survive here in San Diego. And then you're probably thinking, why am I talking so much about money? I don't believe you should choose a career just based on money, but you should be aware the life you could expect based on the career you choose. Don't think that you're going to be and I'm not throwing this occupation under the bus, but being a veterinary tech and driving a Lambo with a beachfront property. Maybe as a plumber if you start early enough, but that's a whole nother presentation. So now we're going to go into the labor market. Okay, So to understand any large data set, you have to break down the data into digestible groups. So the Centers of Excellence breaks down the labor market into 3 different categories. We have below middle skill, and above middle skill jobs. Below middle skill jobs are any job that requires a high school degree or less. Middle skill, which is what the community colleges typically train their programs for, are jobs that require more than a high school degree, but less than a bachelor's. It also includes apprenticeships and some of those occupations where they say they want a bachelor's, but over 33% of the occupation only has an associate's or less. And above middle skill, as you can probably guess, any job that requires a bachelor's degree or higher. And today, we're going to be touching on occupations that fall under the middle skill and above middle skill jobs. And just for fun, we did an online scrape of online job postings for all of San Diego for 2020. Was about 401,000 job postings, a 10% drop from 2019. But with this, we can get an idea of the top skills being listed by employers in the region. This chart shows that the top 5 skills employers are seeking are what we call soft skills. Soft skill being also referred to as a common baseline skill or common skill or a baseline skill. But based on this data, they might not be considered so common anymore. And this is actually pretty aligned with what employers have been telling us the last couple of years. We hold and are part of several roundtables with employers for several sectors in the region through multiple industries, cybersecurity, healthcare, and so forth, to help with educational alignment with businesses, with a focus on how can we help students get ready for employment with said company. So during these discussions, we get to a point of what are the main issues they face with the incoming workforce. They usually state the same issues across all sectors, which is they don't do what they say they will do, which falls communication, working well with others, which is that teamwork, being late or not coming in on time, we fall that under organizational skills. Too much time on their cell phone, we kind of put that back in organizational skills, and critical thinking or problem solving. All those items fall under that soft skill set. Okay, so now on to industry sectors. So California has 9 priority and emerging sectors. Today, we're going to be talking about business and entrepreneurship, healthcare, information and communication technologies, ICT and digital media, and life sciences and biotech. So I'll preface that the numbers we're going to be going over today are pulled from a combination of sources like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, US Census Bureau, or the Bureau of Economic Analysis, to name a few. And you can see some of those listed above. So, but before we go into San Diego as a whole, I'm going to touch on the North Region workforce. Using the community college district zip code list to define what North Region is, we come up with a total of 72 zip codes. So using these 72 zip codes, we're able to determine that 53% of all new jobs in San Diego occur in North Region. So that's around 119,000 of 226. And this is for 2020. And then of those, 17% or about 20,000 of those jobs from 2020 are in the industry known as government. So I think in order of priority goes public education, military, local government, followed by the post office. So the biggest industry in the North Region currently is government. So I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what the region looks like. Okay. So let's say you're interested in healthcare. One good thing is that it's one of 2 recession resilient sectors, meaning when the Great Recession started in late 2007, other sectors saw job loss, while the healthcare sector experienced job growth. And by looking at this chart of population of individuals 55 and over, we are projected to surpass 1 million for that age group by 2029. Population is getting older in San Diego, living longer, more health services will be needed, and more jobs will come because of that. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but a lot of this data is pre-COVID as well. We're continuing on. The healthcare sector accounts for about 136,000 jobs here in San Diego. 9% of them being 9% of all healthcare jobs in California exist in San Diego. And the sector is projected to grow about 15% in the next 5 years or so. And here are some career pathways you can take in healthcare. The blue boxes on the right identify jobs that deal with direct patient care, and the left side, the light gray boxes, identify administrative jobs. And this is to provide an example that there are multiple ways to climb your career ladder. You can get it through education, you can get it through experience, or a combination of both. And we're going to go through a couple of these tables as well. The first column being the job or occupation, the second column, annual openings. So this is how many jobs would open up annually for that occupation. And then we have a entry level to median hourly earnings. Entry level is what we call the 25th percentile, but this is what you can expect to earn after getting the proper training or education. And then the median hourly earnings is what you can expect to earn after working in that job for 3 to 5 years. Registered nurses, we actually have here as a middle skill job, and that's because 39% of the workforce has less than a bachelor's. And that's actually special to California because it's made possible by a program that's called Step Up LVN to ADN, I believe, which is a 30-semester program over 2 years where a licensed vocational nurse will be able to become a registered nurse after completing the program. Hence, that's why a middle skill job. But let's say you don't like dealing with patients, doing administrative work, and you're more of a coder, or you like designing on computers, then ICT and digital media might be for you. So some jobs that you can get in the ICT field would be software developers, computer programmers, web developers, and so forth. As you can see here, software developers and software quality assurance analysts and testers has the greatest annual openings in the sector and also has very good pay. If you and your partner were software developers, you'd probably be able to afford one of those single family homes here in San Diego in its current market. But if you want to work for a specific company, it's going to be very important on the type of coding language you select. If you want to work for Netflix, you're going to have to learn Java. If you're going to learn or work for Facebook, you're going to have to learn PHP. Or if you're going to work for Google or YouTube, you're going to have to learn Python. Currently, Python is still an impacted program. It's been that way for a few years, and that's due to cybersecurity. I won't go into the full story, but we do a lot of DoD or Department of Defense contract work here in San Diego. And with that, a lot of the companies here do cybersecurity work for the government. Because of that, the employees they hire have to pass a background security clearance. If you have any sort of felony conviction or arrest, a DWI, possession of use or selling of drugs, you will not be able to be hired by these companies for that reason. So just something to consider if you're thinking about becoming a cybersecurity here in San Diego. Okay, so moving on to business and entrepreneurship. 20% of the workforce here in San Diego actually resides in this sector. It encompasses most industries like banking, real estate, legal institutions, business ownership, to name a few. And entrepreneurship is the hardest industry to capture or measure because it fits in all other types of industries and can require a wide variety of skill sets depending on the company. It's kind of, how do you train for someone to start their own business? But we have multiple colleges that are still working on that aspect. It also encompasses the most jobs or occupations overall. Here you can see a small list: insurance agents, tax preparers, human resources, kind of related jobs. And this is just 22 of the 78 jobs that exist within the sector. Here, a few jobs that fall within the sector. Most annual openings would be something that falls in customer service with 2,343 jobs. If you're looking for an occupation that requires a bachelor's degree, then we're probably looking at accounts and auditors. And then management analysts also would require having a bachelor's degree. Since it's just a big sector, I name a few and then give you the resources to kind of explore beyond that. So another tool that was actually created through a partnership that we have with California EDD, Employment Development Department, is a bubble mapping that uses annual employee size, firm sizes, or wages. This tool is from 2012 to 2017. We're actually in the middle of updating to 2018. So if you're curious about what happened to businesses or firms here in San Diego for 2020, unfortunately, that data is not going to be really available until 2022. But this is a cool tool to see shifting patterns of employers or where most jobs exist, which we'll come back to in a little bit. Life sciences. So if you were wondering what the second recession resilient sector was, life sciences. This is where most sectors lost jobs during the Great Recession. Life sciences actually had job growth. And some of the industries that go into the sector are drugs and pharmaceuticals, medical devices, biomanufacturing, and so forth. Luckily, most companies are based in the North region. Currently, about 90% of jobs in the life sciences sector are roughly north of the 52 freeway. San Diego's the third largest biotech hub in the country, #1 for fastest growing, and the wages actually compete pretty well with ICT. I think the top two are Boston and San Francisco when it comes to biotech. And currently, I think there's actually an 8-acre lot in downtown Bayfront that's being developed for a mixed life sciences hub that's supposed to bring in about 50 companies, maybe 1,000 jobs. So growth, and this occurred after COVID, I believe September of 2020. So growth for life sciences here in San Diego, definitely not stagnant, still growing at a very fast pace. So a great resource I like to share is the career.ed or careered.org website, which helps with career exploration for 8 of the 9 sectors. We don't list global trade here just because it's kind of a small sector for San Diego, and we try to have students focus on industries that have a little bit more growth, if you will. And in here, you will get an excerpt about the sector. It'll list some careers, salary, and give you a list of local employers. The best part is you can click on a community college if you want to, and see what programs they offer related to that sector. So definitely worth the browse. And before I touch on this thank you page, I also put some bonus slides here on the back for as another resource for career exploration. You can take a 60-question kind of personality test, and it's going to recommend what sectors are good for you or that you might be good for, what industries you might fit in, the jobs that you could qualify for in those industries, and then this pulls the same data that we use for our own reports. You're going to hear about hourly pay, job postings over by month, which are the top companies. And again, very cool resource. And you don't have to take the test either. You can just do any sort of exploration that you wish to do. So that's my everything in a nutshell.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. I wanted to address just a couple of questions in the chat, and I wanted to mention that we did post the link to this presentation that we're with the guest speakers we're about to hear from, our panelists and our industry experts. We did post that link in the chat. I also noted there's some great questions being answered pertinent to some of the things you had mentioned, John, and then there's some other questions about the handout that some of the students have as a writing component that goes with this presentation. They're actually doing it as a piece for class credit. If you have questions about the handout, just do your best to fill out the portions on whatever you're getting, whatever your takeaways are from this presentation. And with that, we're going to go to our next speaker. I want to introduce Eric Bruvold. He is the Chief Executive Officer at the San Diego North Economic Development Council. As CEO, Eric has responsibility for all council operations, including programming, economic development services, and regional economic research and analysis. We thank Eric for moderating our panel of industry professionals this evening. We have prepared some questions for the panelists to answer. In a bit, the audience will have a chance to enter their questions in the Q&A window, and we'll get as many of the questions as we can answered. Let's give a warm welcome to Eric Bruvold. Eric, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Nicole, and thanks for having me on. And thanks also really for all the parents and the students from Carlsbad Unified that are joining us. It's really exciting, I think, and you'll find out from our panelists, for us to talk about the growing economy up here in North County. John gave us some data and some ways of contextualizing that, but we're going to bring this back to the real people, because in the end, I think careers are based upon, and oftentimes career interests are based upon the people that you end up meeting and knowing and learning about the passion that they have for the jobs and the industries that they pursue. And we've got great representatives from all of the 4 industries that John talked about, 4 fast-growing industries here in San Diego County, and industries that all offer really exciting and interesting career pathways and opportunities. But those pathways and opportunities aren't just handed to you. There's a career track that goes along with that. And that's what we're going to hear about from our panelists today. So I'm going to walk through and I'm going to call upon them. They're going to go ahead and introduce themselves. We'll go through the 4 of them. And then we'll kind of, again, go through a series of questions that I'll be reading and paraphrasing and asking each of them. So with that, Analia, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and the company and position that you have here?
Sure. Thank you, Eric. And thank you to you for moderating today, and to the organizers for inviting me here to represent the really robust and dynamic biotech sector, which is certainly one of the strengths of San Diego. And I'm pleased to be able to represent them today. I came to San Diego 15 years ago now, which I think officially makes me a local. I came here after completing my PhD at the University of California up in the Bay Area in San Francisco, where I focused on biochemistry and molecular biology. And I made my way down south to accept a postdoctoral fellowship position at Novartis here in North County, actually in La Jolla. And my focus there for about 10 years was on oncology drug development. And Novartis is really one of the leaders in the field in targeted therapy. And so one of the things that I was really excited about learning there was how to make cancer therapy less toxic and more targeted. And so I was fortunate to learn as much as I could in those 10 years. And then very recently, 4 years ago, I transitioned to a leadership position at Inhibrx, which is a small biotech company. Again, one of the strengths of San Diego is the plethora of companies and different sizes and strengths that we have available to us in this sector. And so in my role there as Executive Vice President of Translational Research, what I'm responsible for is taking preclinical research and basically transitioning it into clinical investigation or phase 1 clinical trials in oncology. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and look forward to the discussion.
Thanks so much. And again, I will explore some of the reasons for life science and what sparked your passion for that. Next up, and kind of representing the business and entrepreneurial side of the equation, is Chris Crawford. And Chris, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your role and company?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. My name's Chris Crawford. I'm the founder of a local company called RinseKit, and RinseKit basically makes portable showers for camping, fishing, outdoor activities like that. And more recently, we've really gotten into hand washing as kind of a big avenue for us. I started this company about 6 years ago. I used to have a pool construction business and worked a lot with plumbing and stuff like that, and was going surfing during the day like every pool guy. And basically I just thought it'd be cool to have a little shower in the back of my car. So I invented this little portable shower system, talked to some people that I knew that, you know, had some pools and fancy backyards. And I said, hey, can you help me get this thing started? And from there, we kind of grew it into a brand over the, you know, last 6 years here, and kind of launched a category. We got a chance to go on Shark Tank and, you know, a bunch of TV shows and all sorts of fun stuff. So it's been a wild ride. We've learned a lot along the way, but we're really happy to be in this part of the county because there's a lot of resources and a lot of people here that can kind of help you launch a new business like this. And for me, it was just a really interesting opportunity to be able to create a lifestyle kind of brand. It could do something that I loved, and it's not really like a job. It's more of a fun, you know, thing that I get to do, and you also get paid to do it. So I love it.
Fantastic. Chris, thanks so much. And again, we're going to explore that story a little bit more for the students. Now, I may be wrong, and Nicole will help me here, but I've yet to see, oh, and there he is. I know he's connecting. Yeah, let's see, and there we go. So our next speaker is Aaron Bizak. Aaron, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, your title, and then the organization you work for?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Hello, everybody. I'm Aaron Bizak. I'm the Chief of External Affairs at Tri-City Medical Center. And that means that I run marketing, communications, government affairs, and community engagement for the hospital and the healthcare district in coastal North County. Great.
Thanks, Aaron. And again, we'll be back to you in a little bit. And then finally, but by no means is order of any indication of accomplishments, we're going to hear from Donna. And Donna, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your title and the organization you're with?
Hi, good evening. Yes, I'm Donna Woods. Thank you so much for having me, and it's exciting to see the students and parents here. I am the Manager of Academic Relations for Cyber Guild, which is part of CUNED, and I work with legislators around the nation and the U.S. Department of Education, and I support teachers and students throughout the state of California, and we really love the Carlsbad, San Diego, North County area. So I also serve as an instructor for ICT and cybersecurity in Moreno Valley in the Inland Empire. We are starting on our campus, the very first Cyber Innovation Center on a high school campus that will be over 7,000 square feet. And I've earned my master's degree in ICT and Workforce Education Development from Southern Illinois University in Carbondale in Illinois. And I was very blessed and fortunate last year to be awarded the first inaugural Cybersecurity Educator of the Year from the presidential administration. So it's exciting to be here with you tonight. And I love the incredible growth in the ICT careers that are happening in San Diego, as you heard from John. So I'm going to give you some exciting facts and we'll be back with you. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Donna. So one thing that I think, all students and parents, sort of, hope that students hope for and parents hope for their children is that they find a career that really sparks their passion. And so, one thing I'd like to talk about for our panelists is to ask you some questions about, or to have you think about what led you to the journey that you took. And Analia, let's start with you. I mean, you started in a bachelor's degree in the life sciences and worked your way through for a PhD. What really sparked those interests and what kept you going through what is, a multi-year academic pathway to get your doctorate and then move into a research position in a biotech company?
Yeah, it's as with everything, it's very circuitous, right? There's not often, I think, a straight line from one point to another, as I'm sure all the panelists would resonate with them. For me, I knew that I always wanted to be in the health sector. I grew up in a household where my father was a registered nurse. He worked in cardiac care. When I was 6 years old, I would tell you boldly I wanted to be a cardiologist, and that to me was a really motivating factor. But as I got older and as I got into my undergrad experience, I realized that what I really loved about health was the concept of physiology and the concept of how the human body worked. I was really much more of an engineer at heart, I think, than I was of a physician. And it's not to say that physicians aren't, spectacularly important and great scientists in their own right. But I was just always more interested in how things worked. And so I took a course in undergrad, which was called the Biology of Cancer. It was run in the primary literature, which was the first time that I had ever actually learned outside of a textbook. Like I really learned from practice And it was that practical application which completely changed all of my plans. I stopped applying to medical school and I started applying to graduate school. And I just really wanted to tinker. I wanted to know how things worked, and I wanted to be able to treat as many people as possible by developing drugs, as opposed to just treating the patients in my clinic, for example. So it was a bit circuitous, but I'm certainly happy where I ended up.
No, that's great. And I think that's what I think a lot of students are going to find, and a lot of parents probably found in their career. It sometimes takes a class or an educator or a topic to spark an interest. Chris, you've taken the jump, or you took the jump to become an entrepreneur and a founder and start your own company. What kind of led you to do that? What was kind of the spark and the interest to take that jump, which is a big one? And as you think about it, what's kind of the keeps you going and keeps you motivated through those hard days of making payroll and keeping a company afloat?
Yeah, you know, the thing that kind of inspired me to do this, I love kind of building things with my hands, and I don't think so much like of a corporate structure was ever really for me. It was never in my, you know, DNA to kind of sit there and just do the same thing every day. So I love the fact that I could create something that was exactly what I wanted. And, you know, just being able to kind of create that path along the way. I think that just kind of, you know, I don't know, having a good open mindset to be able to do whatever you want and enjoy it. And it really makes it easy to go to work every day. I mean, something like this where I get to, you know, dive into every part of the business, whether it's manufacturing or working on, you know, keeping the internet up for the day or whatever it is. There's always something that's coming up. You know, you get to do all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of fun, and it keeps you, I don't know, just alive, because you get to do new stuff all the time. It doesn't get that monotonous. I think that, you know, the thing that I guess is important with this is grit. I think if you're going to kind of do your own business and start your own career path, there's going to be a lot of really hard things. And it's just kind of having an open mindset to say, okay, you know, here's the barrier we're up against. What are the options? What are the different things we can do? How can we get around this? How can we keep moving forward and just keep going on it? I mean, you can't quit. You got to keep pushing through it. You got to figure out ways to keep things going forward in the right direction. And I think a lot of times people think that there's just going to be some magic bullet that's going to fix everything, when really it's a lot of fragmented pieces. It's a lot of small things that got to go right. I mean, every now and then you get a good break and you want to take advantage of that, but typically it's a lot of small decisions that add up to kind of a good big picture.
Wonderful, great. Aaron, you've been involved in the healthcare sector for really most of your career on the administrative side, but of course you also were, had a frontline position. Tell us a little bit about, you know, how you ended up kind of where you started with your career, and then, you know, how you ended up where you are today.
Yeah, you know, early on, I was on a path to become a firefighter paramedic. I was working as an emergency medical technician on ambulances in San Diego, on EMT and paramedic units here. And then I had a series of experiences, including having heart surgery myself at 22 years old. And quite honestly, that experience of becoming a patient changed the way I looked at healthcare. And growing out of that over the next couple of years came an interest in healthcare policy and laws, and who makes the laws that we all follow as healthcare providers, and who impacts the care that we receive as patients. And so that led me into the field of healthcare policy. I worked full-time on an ambulance and went to school full-time and interned at a senator's office. And eventually that led to the field of health policy. And I spent 7 years doing that. And then eventually decided to go to the places that I thought were arguably the most influential, and that was hospitals. So I went to graduate school and ended up working now in hospital leadership for over 10 years with this particular focus on healthcare policy and community engagement and things like that. So, but it really started with an interest in healthcare early on, and then the experience of becoming a patient myself.
Thanks, Aaron. Donna, you work in the ITC area and cybersecurity. So, you know, was this a passion for ITC and cyber crimes and cybersecurity? What led you to the field that you're in today?
Great question, Eric. Well, cybersecurity really wasn't much in existence as I was graduating, high school and entering into college. So I entered into the aerospace industry because I was always very interested in technology. My father was a quality engineer and helped design the space shuttle trials. So I even looked at wanting to be an astronaut. It was very exciting to me. But for me, it wasn't popular for females to enter into engineering or computer science or any field of technology. And it was really, really hard to break that wall. So I was even more eager then and consumed with trying to learn more about it and fit into that field. Then it evolved, as Ania has shared, that it evolved, it became circular as to computer science and then on to cybersecurity. Because even in the aerospace industry, people were trying to steal data, right? Privatized design, information from General Dynamics, Boeing, Ford Aerospace. And then you had the insurgents men of technology just break forth with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak creating Apple in the late 70s, early 80s. And that was important that they protected those designs or had people believe in them. And then Bill Gates came onto the scenes. So you had this huge emergence in technology where they needed people to learn it, to teach it, but then also to protect it and create it. So you had to be very innovative. And so it was very evolutionary, and that's what made it so much fun. And now you have all these designers like Chris and people who are innovative. And I saw students ask questions about gaming design. Well, even as a gaming designer, you have to be able to protect the data and the design you're creating because there's corporate espionage. So this is really fun. If you love forensics, if you love being an investigator, pen testing, you can help so many organizations, no matter what career field you love going into, because ICT and cybersecurity impacts every industry sector: health, private sector, biotechnologies, medicine, finance, everything.
Great, perfect, thank you. So one thing, so we've got a set of questions, and I'm going to hit some of the panelists with these, and not with everything, because we want to try and be respectful of everybody's time and get through as many questions as we can. But Analia, I wanted to ask you, I mean, your background and your story for executive leadership in life science is somewhat typical. People move from an undergrad to an advanced degree in biology or medicine or what have you. But is that required? I mean, are there jobs in your industry which people can get with a associates of science degree or a bachelor's degree? Are there career pathways that don't require people to have PhDs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's one of the really wonderful things about our industry is that you can have a huge impact on human health with, any degree and any skill set. And I think drug development is a particularly complicated series of events. There's engineering, there's, laboratory techniques, very technical positions. There's people like me who do more operational roles and integrate a lot of different kinds of sectors there. There's, legal, there's, and I'm sure Aaron would talk a lot about, when you mentioned about policy, right? We intersect all of these different functions, and there's contributions to be made across the board. I mean, if I look at just the people in my group, we definitely have people with all different educational backgrounds. We currently have a couple, laboratory interns from Miracosta College that are, just coming in and getting their feet wet, but still already contributing to drug development on a really massive scale. I think it's a really good point that this doesn't require a PhD at all to have an impact on drug development.
That's great, thank you. Aaron, when you think about sort of educational requirements and careers in the healthcare system, do you see people, kind of a career ladder? And so where do you sort of, opportunities for people to enter in at more entry-level positions and work their way up? Kind of talk about kind of the necessary educational training that people often need.
Yeah, I think that, the fact of the matter is there's hundreds of different jobs in healthcare. And so you can take a lot of different approaches. Obviously, direct patient care revolves around the sciences, and studying biology and things of that nature, and then applying it in more of a career technical education fashion. I mean, even a doctor is really a career technical education field. Nursing, EMTs, whatever, what have you, techs, radiology techs, things like that. But there's other pathways to it. I mean, we have accountants, we have people who are designers and graphic designers and communication specialists, and you name it across the board. people who do fundraising, so there's a lot of different opportunities out there, particularly in the healthcare space, and there's a lot of different academic paths. I know people who went to, trade schools, I went to community colleges, and folks who went all the way up to the highest level that you could possibly achieve in medicine at the best schools in the country and sometimes in the world. So there's a lot of different paths. It just depends on what you're really interested in. But generally speaking, there's a path for you in the healthcare field if you're interested. You don't have to like blood and guts or anything like that. You can choose other fields or other areas within the healthcare sector.
So, Chris, what I'd like to ask you is sort of on the not necessarily on the degree side or the formal education, but as an entrepreneur. What are some of the soft skills or, sort of those aspects? What are those things that you rely upon every day and you find yourself coming back to and think, wow, I'm glad that I've gained some skill and experience in using those things in my job and they're helping my company grow and thrive?
Yeah, I mean, pulling from stuff kind of before, I think it's just learning to not give up on this kind of stuff. There's all the resources you need, or you can watch YouTube videos and learn just about anything. I mean, we're learning Photoshop stuff, constantly. It's like, how do we do these different product shots and these kind of things? And just being able to kind of figure out, there's ways to, okay, here's what the problem is. I need to go figure out how to do this, or I need to bring somebody in that understands how to do it. And, just get the right team involved. If you have the right people with you, they're going to help bring things to the table that you didn't see also. I try to have people that kind of think the other way that I do. I tend to just kind of like charge forward and get it done. It's like, okay, let's make it happen. Let's push things through. And then we have, my operations manager that's like, actually, we got to go through all these procedures and do all these things. And it's like, all right, you're probably right. So I think having the balance of both of those kind of mindsets and being open to always hearing other people's opinions, because there's a lot of wisdom around you sometimes that you can gain from people. If you're just not prideful and you just go, okay, maybe I don't know the best option here and I need to take this in and together we can improve the company as a whole and not just like my whole vision for it. It's what's best for everybody here.
Donna, the question was asked in chat, which I think, is on topic for this. And that is, for high school students that might be really interested in cyber and information security. Are internships, a really good thing to do in the industry? Technical degrees, where should sort of folks be thinking about if this is something of interest? How are you sort of seeing companies in your space fill the talent pipeline and engage in talent acquisition?
Great question. Well, both John addressed it and Chris addressed it as well. You need to be a lifelong learner and want a desire to learn. That's what employers want first, right? They want to be able to help mold you. But then John also spoke in the economic development that you have to keep your background, or what we call your digital footprint, really, really clean, no matter what industry you're going into, but particularly the cyber industry. So let's say, example, the student's phone. That's the first thing they need to educate themselves on, is that you have all this technology, but are you keeping your social media clean? Are you keeping your digital footprint really clean? That's important. Everything you post, what you talk about, can come up for a college interview and a job interview. So you won't even be able to get that internship if they see things on your social media that are critical or alarming. So you have to be careful what you post, what you state. All those things are very important. So we call that our cyber hygiene, keeping everything really, really clean. Whether you're on Snapchat, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, it doesn't matter. All these things are accessible. All the apps, the gaming teams that you're on, those are all accessible to employers and colleges to download. So that's the first step. And if Monica would like to share the CyberSeek or CyberOrg, I have a great website called cyberseek.org. If families want to go out there. And it's great because it shows students where they can actually enter in to the program at the entry level. And you can see, even in San Diego, thank you, Monica, that this is a great, great website. There's an interactive map. You can pull up all the different states in the United States. You can pull up your cyber pathway, how you come in at entry level. What's very exciting is that students can enter right after high school in this career. And you can see the job demand with just a high school diploma and begin making about $65,000 a year with a little bit of background, and that internship would be really important, and even going after some certifications that they can gain online. San Diego has a wonderful, wonderful cybersecurity network of employers, both private and government employers. So you're looking at a base salary that surpasses what John talked about in your economic demand. Mid-range, these jobs can go up to 6 figures very, very quickly with an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. So you can see entry level, mid-level, and then advanced management level can take you well over to $200,000 or $3,000 a year with simply just having a 2-year or 4-year degree. The job demand is very, very high, especially what happened in COVID. You can see the demand went from 22% to over 30%. In fact, over just COVID, cyber attacks increased by 78%, particularly on the estimated losses were all in data privacy, our privatized data, and 92% of the malware, and malware is just malicious software, came through emails. And you can see all of us were working from home. So hackers were having a field day and the work imploded on cybersecurity experts. So it's an excellent field to go into. If you're passionate in any specific career, you can help that organization in so many ways. If you're curious and creative and love technology, it is an excellent field to get into because you're serving and helping so many people. And it's just a wonderful job.
Great, thank you. Chris, there was a question in chat that I want to kind of maybe rephrase a little bit or have you sort of, maybe self-reflect on. I mean, one of the challenges, right, of running a small business is that, and being an entrepreneur is that there's no guarantees, right? That you wake, you've got to sell a product and you got to build a mousetrap, and sometimes somebody can come along, the next day and have a better mousetrap in front of you. And so, I think we all would have, I think all of the panelists would acknowledge that running a small business is risky compared to, say, for example, maybe, just doing a 9-to-5 and being a salaried position someplace. What are the rewards, though? I mean, first of all, would you agree with that? And then secondly, what are the rewards, though, that kind of, balance out the equation for being, an entrepreneur and being a company founder?
Yeah, I definitely agree that there's always a risk. I mean, when we started RinseKit, we were worried every day that somebody was going to, knock off the product and do all this stuff. And obviously, you want to set up all the things you can to kind of ease that a little bit. Make sure you got intellectual property and all that kind of stuff set up. And then you just can't sit there and worry about stuff all the time because it'll eat you up. Because there's a million things all the time that are going wrong, in a business, and you got to be able to kind of, get all these things going and keep them going, and then just jump from thing to thing. So if you focus on something too long, it'll just eat you up and you're not making progress forward. So the key is just to kind of keep moving forward. I've seen a couple different, routes with this. I mean, there's a guy I know that has, a sock company, and they make compression socks. That was already an existing industry, and he's doing like $14 million a year with it. I mean, it's a great business. So he took a giant industry and carved off a little piece of that pie, started his own company. He sells those now, and that's a really cool thing. That's a great way to go about it. And then the harder thing to do, maybe not harder, but a difficult way to do it, which is what we did, which is pioneer. You have to make a whole new thing, invent something new, and then try to make everybody and convince everybody that they like it and they want to buy it. And sometimes they take off and they go crazy, and then sometimes you really got to work at it for a long time. But the reward is that it's all yours at the end of the day, depending on how you split the company. But you can reap all of that. So you can take that company and it can be your little, lifestyle company that you can do whatever you want with it. You can sit back and have everybody do everything and check in, every couple of days and see how things are going and kind of just manage it from afar if you have the right team. Or you can sell the company and retire and go on to the next project or whatever. It just kind of, it lets you do whatever you want. So it kind of depends on your personality and where you want to go with it. I think, there's awesome things that you can do by getting into companies and kind of working your way up too. 9-to-5, we have a lot of people here that started out doing stuff, and we like to, hire smart people and then bring them up within the company. So keep promoting them, keep moving them up in the steps, and eventually they're part of the team too. And they can share in that whole thing. So they get a piece of it also, but it's nimble and you get the freedom. And then at the same time, there's the stability side of it also. So that's why my wife's a teacher. I get both.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. Hey, Aaron, I wanted to, and then I'm going to go through actually all of you and ask all of you the same questions. So, Aaron, where do you see healthcare going in the next decade? And what do you think that means for the kinds of, career opportunities that the students that are on this webinar who might be graduating high school in 2 or 3 years and then going off to college and maybe getting a couple certificates. I mean, the industry of 10 years from now will be the industry that they are looking for their careers. And where do you see healthcare being in 10 years?
Health information technology. That is the future. I think we're going to move even further away from hospitalized care and more towards providing care in what they would call an outpatient setting. If you've ever, instead of having surgery at the hospital, you have surgery at a surgery center now, or you stay less time in the hospital than you used to. I think that's a big piece of it. I think remote monitoring of patients is going to be a very big deal, where they actually have you swallow something and they monitor you from afar, or they just give you a little device that monitors you and you recuperate at home. I think that's a big piece. And I've been saying for years, I think the future of medicine is home visits. I think we're going back to home visits. I call it the Doc Baker approach. If you ever watched Little House on the Prairie, Doc Baker used to come by and take care of the family. I think we're going back to that, where, for many years we have focused on how do we get people to come to us, when in fact what we should be focused on is how do we get ourselves to go to them, where they are. And I think that's particularly poignant for people who are, let's say, lower in the socioeconomic spectrum and don't have ready access to things. I think it's easier to do that. And that was really driven home for me by working on an ambulance. I used to go into people's homes all the time. When you go into the home, people come to the hospital, they come to a doctor's office, they have a very limited amount of time to spend with you, and they tell you one thing. But when you go into their home and you see how they live, you learn a lot more about people. And I think you can be more effective at treating people, including the social issues that do impact health outcomes.
So, I mean, one of the things I think for our career advice is that, given where that industry is going to be in 10 years, is making sure that in addition to having, of course, the strong basis in life and health sciences, that an information technology, or to have that sort of comfort level of working with increasingly a digitized medical environment is going to be critical.
I think that's absolutely right. And there are incredibly lucrative careers that can be had in the health information technology space, specifically focusing on that. So if you're a computer science whiz, you're interested in that, you can definitely go into that field and do really well.
Annalena, I'd ask you the same question. So as we sort of think, I mean, obviously, biotechnology and biomedical devices, that entire industry has been, has seen tremendous changes over the last 10 years. As you think out to 2030, where do you think the industry will be, and what kind of career advice do you think that would then, translate to the students that are on the call tonight?
Yeah, I think what Aaron just said really resonates with me a lot is data, right? Data. We, when I was in graduate school, we had the first human genome sequenced, and it was a huge undertaking and a very big deal. And now we do it routinely, right? We send samples away and we get full genome sequencing in days. And the amount of data that we have to work with is astronomical and increasing exponentially every day. So computer science is certainly a big aspect of health technology, from the moment that we find a target that we think has an impact for health, all the way through our clinical trial design. I really can't say it enough. Big data is really the key. And then on the clinical trial side, I think there's really a lot of onus. And again, I think what Aaron said actually resonates with me on that front as well, is how do we get to patients? How do we recruit patients for participation in trials so that we can accelerate our time to market, so that we can bring these scientific breakthroughs to patients? Because there's a huge regulatory hurdle, both regulatory in addition to scientific hurdle, and how do we intersect those fields? And a lot of that comes into the field of clinical trial execution and clinical trial operations. So if you really want to be a part of science, but you don't want to spend your time in the lab, focusing on how to actually bring science to people to impact health in the form of clinical trial operations, I think is a huge opportunity for people that are interested in this field.
Thanks. Donna, I mean, obviously cybersecurity, I think, at least one thing that's going to be true in 10 years is that, cybersecurity will be even more important 10 years from now than it is today, and vital. But how do you see the industry transforming, and what do you think that means for career preparation and career pathways for students?
I think what we're seeing happening across the nation is that they're really trying to teach all of us to realize that it's all our responsibility, not just those in the industry themselves, not just ICT experts or people working in the industry, but all of us. Like Aaron went on his job, he has to make sure he's protecting that privatized data, right, from all the patients and all the clients that he works with. For Analia, she's protecting all the information for their biomedical research. For Chris, he's protecting and needs to protect and make sure all his employees, all their designs. So it's all of our importance. That's where I see the big shift happening, is that employers, as it grows, we're becoming more knowledgeable nationwide as to how we protect our own privatized data, what our responsibilities are to the organizations we work for. So that's first and foremost, that it's everybody's responsibility. The next level to that is, as we see that each of these industries that we're speaking of here tonight and all the other industry sectors are going to have a much larger demand when we're having people work from home, when we're treating people remotely, when a doctor can go into a pacemaker remotely from a computer in a hospital, right? That's a scary thought. When an auto developer and an engineer, when we have vehicles that can be designed and programmed and someone can control them remotely, excuse me, we have to have people to protect that data and know how that all works. So whether you're going into computer engineering or even to manufacturing and autos, it's important. And so that's where I see the big change coming, is that ICT will not be so broad and cybersecurity won't be broad, but it's going to be very specialized for all these different industries.
Great, thank you. So, and Chris, I'll let you wrap this one up. I mean, obviously, you know, it's a little hard, but your crystal ball that's out there, I mean, for RinseKit, and as you guys think about, where do you think, you know, the marketplace and the industry that you're in will be in 10 years? And what are you thinking about really what that means for trying to run and grow a company?
You know, RinseKit is kind of a unique one just because it may be kind of a, you know, small unicorn or something like that, where it makes outdoor creative equipment and stuff like that. So I think as, you know, we've seen during this pandemic, a lot of people are kind of realizing that they like to go camping again, and they like to go fishing, and they do, I mean, everything, all, you know, try to go buy an RV or something right now, you can't. All that kind of stuff. Mountain bikes are sold out everywhere. So this industry has definitely taken a big leap, you know, forward. Unfortunately, you know, I'd rather trade it back for not having COVID, but it's definitely, you know, showed people that they can have a lot of fun outside again. And it's growing the industry as a whole. And I think when, you know, people have more income and they have, you know, more time to kind of realize and focus on stuff, and they're working from home, they want to do this fun stuff and they want to get outside more. So I definitely, you know, have seen a lot of growth in this industry. And I see that, you know, there's a lot of things that haven't been thought of yet. So whether you have an idea or something like that, I would encourage people to go for it. And I would say, you know, just talk to your family, talk to your friends, you know, see what you can do to rally some people, get some people to support you. Start out a little business, you know, throw some things online, see what you can sell and do all that stuff. And you might as well try it. You're going to learn some stuff along the way. And if you can, you know, tag along with a company and learn some things from them, that's, you know, the firsthand real world experience is the best. You know, getting internships is amazing. You can learn so much and avoid all of the dumb tax that we've had to pay just by, you know, having some basic business knowledge and then going into it. It really does, you know, open the doors up for you, and you'll find things that you didn't even see, you know, that were part of your business can come up and be like, okay, now we're this company. You kind of shift and you go where the things go. So yeah, I think just open-mindedness, and, you know, this industry is growing and we're seeing all sorts of new stuff that we never thought of before. And it's been awesome to watch it kind of shift, and we're hoping to be in front of it.
Perfect. That's fantastic. So I'll make sure that as a moderator, I've done my job, which I think I've kept everything on time, but I'm going to make sure to ask our organizer, Nicole, if she has any questions that she had wished I asked and was desperately trying to make sure that I got, you know, she got my attention.
Eric, I think you did a fantastic job, and panelists, thank you. I've learned quite a bit myself just listening to this inspiring speech. But there was a couple questions related to branding and the business of, you know, running a business, and how you, what percentage of time you really affix to that. I don't know if that would be more for Aaron or Chris.
I think for Chris, so that's a really good question. So, did you, I mean, if you had to put, put weights on a scale, was Rinse Kit about the mousetrap you bought and how good an outside shower you had? Or was it about telling a compelling story about how the product was, going to change your life for the better if you were outdoors and enjoying things? So, product innovation or branding and marketing?
Yeah, so for us, we were solving a problem. There was a problem. People needed to clean up when they go outside and have fun. And Rinse Kit solved that problem. So I saw a thing that, I could say, okay, I'm going to fix that for a lot of people. We're going to go ahead and push that forward. And a lot of it was explaining that to people and showing them how it worked, why they needed it, and how it would improve their life. Now, if I had a clothing company, it would be all about branding and making sure that we have cool people doing cool stuff. These, people out there with their cool hipster vans or whatever, doing things and wearing their clothes. Whatever market you're trying to reach, you need to speak to that audience, and you really need to penetrate that market and make sure that you have the right message. And, if it's sustainability or all those kind of things, all of that plays in when people make a decision and they decide to back you and buy into your company. They want to buy into a lifestyle with a clothing thing. Whereas with Rinse Kit, it was like, we solved the problem and they thought it was cool. And, yeah, this could help me in my life. So it kind of depends what you're doing. And that's how you got to kind of dictate that.
That's a great answer.
For more of the science, healthcare related, one of the questions that came up may relate to Aaron or Analia. It says, I was previously told that in the sciences, it's very helpful to have a master's or higher if you want to be in research groups or middle management. Is this statement accurate? What can you speak to in terms of your experiences in the field with advanced degrees?
So,
Aaron, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I will go on my screen. I was just going to say, Aaron, do you want to go ahead and take a cut at that? I mean, do people need to anticipate getting advanced degrees for advancing through the healthcare system?
Well, I have an advanced degree. I don't know. But my approach to it was to round out my education as much as possible. I had a career plan for the last 20 plus years, and it was to have clinical education experience, policy education experience, and then business education experience. That's why I have an MBA, and my MBA is in healthcare management and policy. I think that from what I've seen on hiring committees, in order to advance in your career, if you want to become a leader or something like that, and particularly in the hospital space, you almost certainly have to have an advanced degree nowadays in order to qualify for that. I don't think that's necessarily the right approach. Because I think there's a lot of people with great experience and natural talent and learned, skills that can succeed as leaders. But, as you're trying to narrow down the pool of candidates in any particular field, oftentimes the advanced degree is looked at as one of those narrowing criteria.
Analia, what are you seeing in health sciences?
Yeah, I think it's aligned. I think, certainly the advanced degree gets your foot in the door for those higher level positions immediately out of school. But I've definitely hired folks with bachelor's degrees to come into leadership positions after years on the job. So I think, work experience, particularly demonstration of leadership at work experience, like for example, in research, we often have project teams. That's really kind of our unit of leadership. And so being able to show that you've shepherded a drug into the clinic, or that you've demonstrated through publication or through inclusion at a conference or being invited to speak, there are definitely on the job ways to demonstrate that you have those leadership skills. It may take more time, but it's certainly a possibility.
Great, perfect.
I had another follow-up question relating to kind of the more immediacy of getting access to some of these fields. There was a question about how can a high school student get an internship in a cybersecurity field? So this would be for Donna, or there was also some related questions to some of the other speakers about how do people kind of get more immediately involved in some of these careers?
Well, I can address that part for the cybersecurity part. To do a direct internship, usually students have to be 18 because they do what's called a life scan, the background check. But for students in high school, it's possible to do your internships or what we call pre-apprenticeships, right? And those can still be paid through launch programs, through many of your community colleges that offer them, because think about the small businesses in your area. They need people to help set up their networks, help to establish their data and protect that data. So they want to make sure first that you have a clean background. It goes back to what we've already discussed, right? And you can get that life scan to see that. So that's important, but you can still get experience. And when I share with my high school students, what we do is we work directly with our IT department at our school district. So we're helping other teachers. We're helping fix Chromebooks, right? We're doing those base things in the hardware that you need to know that part of it too. Before you can get into the inside data, you have to know how to help all the networks, just putting all the cables together, working with everything. So that's a great place to start, is just working right on your school campus with your IT department that are working on your campus and being supportive there to all the staff.
Great, thank you. I'm going to pop in the chat. Did anyone else want to speak to that in terms of internships or ways to kind of get involved in fields where you can gain some hands-on experience?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just one quick story that I had to deal with when and this maybe is not so much internships, but just to kind of motivate people to keep going, is that when I first made my first rinse kit, we made it out of stuff in the garage or whatever. And I took a prototype to one of the surf shops and I said, hey, you know, what do you think about this? And the guy said, it's stupid. You know, it's been done a million times. It'll never sell, blah, 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 blah. And it was a pretty hard shutdown, but, you know, fast forward 6 months and we're in Costco and stuff like that. So don't stop if you get shot down on an internship or, you know, you're finding that things are difficult. Just keep trying, keep going, try other things, keep, you know, seeing what else works, and eventually a door will open up and you'll get through it. Because it's tough to, you know, kind of push through that stuff, but it builds character and it makes you able to handle those issues when they come up, and you can develop really thick skin, which just keeps you going forward and helps a lot.
Aaron?
I was going to say, you know, early on in my career, I wrote a vision, mission, value statement for myself. And my second value is engagement, and it's form coalitions to accomplish common goals based on a shared vision while reserving the right to go it alone if necessary. And that is that if you have a vision and you see it, there's people that will not see your vision. That is absolutely the case. Most people have never really thought deeply about these issues. If you have a vision and you think it's the right thing, go for it. Go and own it. It might not work, but you know what? It might work, and you might end up being somebody like Chris, you know, who's doing really well with this vision. I'll tell you, as a surfer myself, I think it's a brilliant idea. So, yes.
I'm going to wrap us up just because we do have a little bit of time set aside for our Carlsbad folks to talk about some of the great programs that we have here in Carlsbad that kind of lead into some of this. I want to say a very warm thank you to our panelists. Such great conversation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop in the chat the links to this presentation, as well as a feedback form for all of our attendees, all of our fantastic questions that were asked by our attendees. If you could click on that right before you leave today, we'd appreciate it. And John, there was also a request for your slide deck, so we can make that available possibly when we send out the information with the recording of this webinar. Our panelists, I want to thank you again for your time and let you know that if in fact you need to duck out of the call at this time, that's perfectly fine to do so. But if you do have some time to stick around, you can actually click on that Q&A and answer some of these questions directly. There was a couple in there about computer science languages and stuff that those would definitely not be in my wheelhouse. So I'm going to turn it over to Megan Arias. Megan Arias is our Director of Secondary Education at Carlsbad Unified. And Megan will take the last few minutes to discuss career pathways that are offered at our high schools here in Carlsbad. So Megan, over to you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. So hi, I'm Megan Arias. I'm Director of Secondary Education for Carlsbad Unified School District. And I want to thank our panelists for sharing the personal pathways they took to reach their current career. One of our goals at Carlsbad Unified School District, and you could go to the next slide, please. One of the goals is to help students identify their strengths and interests and gain exposure to a wide variety of careers so they are positioned to make informed college and career choices and begin to build their pathway. We do this through what we call our K-12 college and career education continuum, where we build in opportunities for students to learn about work through career awareness and exploration experiences, both in elementary school and middle school, and learn through and for work in career prep and training that are embedded into our career pathway program. Next slide, please. So here's a list of just some of these experientships that we offer in elementary, middle, and high school. These are possible due to partnerships we've established with local industries and community organizations. And Carlsbad Ed Foundation does help to make and fund many of these for us. For example, we have BizTown. Some of the students on the call might recall that in 5th grade, where students get to learn about and experience careers, as well as Carlsbad City Government activities, where they learned about those careers in elementary school. Going into middle school, we have a variety of these. We work with Agua Hedionda Lagoon and Thermo Fisher, where students actually get to work with people in these organizations and do hands-on labs and learn about the careers that are in each of these areas. And then as students refine their interests in high school, we offer what we call career pathways. Next slide, please. And a career pathway is a sequence of courses that we offer that integrates their core academics with actual technical and industry skills that you heard talked about tonight. And this really helps students to figure out if that's an industry that they're interested in going to. Our career pathways integrate leadership as well as work-based learning experiences. So students really get to learn more about a specific industry. So we have guest speakers, just like we have tonight, that come into the classroom virtually right now, but when we're in real time. Our students go out to the industry and tour them. We go on college tours. Our industries come into the classroom and give feedback on student projects. We have internships. So a lot of different opportunities are built into these specific career pathway courses. Even another thing is that students get to earn college credit when they take these high school courses, if the course is articulated or dual enrolled with the community college, and it's free of charge. And also, if they complete the pathway, so they completed all the courses, that is highly regarded on college applications. It shows that students stuck with something and that they showed their interest, and they also get a lot of leadership experiences. Next slide. So currently we have 13 high school career pathways and 40 individual courses within each of those pathways. 14 of those courses can actually earn college credit. And we currently have about 60% of our high school students who are enrolled in at least one of these career pathway courses. All of our high school courses are UC CSU A to G approved, and all of our pathways align to the San Diego high priority industry sectors that you heard about in the job market presentation earlier. At middle school, we also have career pathways in broadcast journalism and also Project Lead the Way at Calavera Hills. Those courses, as well as other courses you see listed there, all lead into our high school pathways. So if you take one of those courses in middle school and you're interested, that would be a good sign for you to take the pathway in high school. Next slide, please. So our pathways really focus on project-based learning. They have the opportunity to work with industry partners, and they also compete in competitions, and they also win many prestigious awards. So here's just a few pictures that represent some of those pathways. For example, Carlsbad High School Film Academy pathway was officially recognized in 2019 as a gold certified link learning career pathway, which was one of only 12 programs to have achieved this status, and we're among the top 2% of link learning programs in the nation. Carlsbad High School TV broadcast journalism pathways at Carlsbad High School and Valley Middle School were just awarded the nation's top scholastic honor for broadcast journalism. It was called the Student Television Network Award of Excellence. Carlsbad High School has won this award more than any other high school in the nation, and this was their 14th year in the #1 spot. Valley Middle School Broadcast Pathway also won its 10th Award of Excellence. Another example is our business pathway. You just heard a little bit about entrepreneurship. We have a business pathway that teaches students every aspect of that. Our students actually get to create and run their own business. So they get to try out an idea like that Chris was sharing about earlier. And This year they got to actually compete. They compete in trade shows. This year it was a virtual trade show, and one of our companies, We Learn, placed in the top 10 in the Fall Western Region online trade show. You also see here our students in the biomedical pathway on the bottom right-hand corner are using a DNA sequencer in class. That is the same one used in industry. Industry actually trained our teacher and then gave us these DNA sequencers so they could actually use it and learn it in the class. So they're gaining these technical skills that they can use later to get a job. You also see at the bottom a industry certificate for SolidWorks mechanical design. That's through our engineering design pathway, where students get an industry recognized certificate upon graduation that is used for hiring students right out of high school. Okay, next slide, please. So you're going to get a copy. So this slide right here just shows you which pathways are at which high school in case you were interested in that. So we sort them out. And then at the bottom is just a snapshot of some of our industry and community partnerships. We have many that our students work with, but that's just a snapshot of them. And next slide. You're also going to get a copy of this presentation as Nicole shared in the link. And when you go through it, when you saw the different pathways that were listed, if you click on those links, it actually takes you to the flyer for each pathway. It's going to tell you the course sequence, if those courses get college credit, what kind of work-based learning they have. And then it also tells you where those pathways lead to in our local colleges and community colleges. So the certificate programs, AA degrees, and 4-year degrees. There's also job market information on the second part of the flyer. And at the very bottom, it also lists the RIASAC skills. When students take the strengths inventories, if one of those skills comes up, that might be a pathway that you are interested in. Next slide. So since many of our career pathways tie to our local colleges and our local community colleges, we do have a MiraCosta representative here, Amy Pimentel, to say a few words about the MiraCosta pathways that our career pathways tie directly into. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Pimentel, and I am the Career Education Pathways Coordinator at MiraCosta. Just want to, as Megan pointed out, just let you know that the careers that all of our panelists spoke about today, we do have programs at MiraCosta that can prepare you for those careers. If you're interested as a high school student in taking classes and getting a feel for college, you want to explore what a certain major would be like, and you want to take a class. All community college classes are free to high school students. So if that's something that you're interested in, or parents, if that's something you're interested in for your child, connect with your high school counselor and they can help get you set up with that. We have lots of short-term certificates that just require a few classes, as well as courses that lead to an associate's degree or prepare you for transfer. So just keep us in mind as you are planning your next steps. And I think if you go to the next slide, these are some of our videos that they're very short videos that give you an idea of our programs. You can hear from some of our instructors and students and just get a sneak peek into it. So I would encourage you to look at those. These are just a few of them, and we have a lot more. But if you click on that link of the MiraCosta College, which this will go out to all of you, you'll be able to see all of our videos for all of our career education programs. And that is it.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are right shy of 6:30, so pretty great job on time. I want to thank those of you that took time to answer questions in the chat as well, and for the great insights that were shared. We have 94 questions that have been answered so far, so impressive, guys. And if you didn't get your question answered, I encourage you to reach out to one of your teachers or associates, or reach out to Carlsbad USD directly, and we can try and put you in touch with somebody who can answer those. As I said before, Our presentation link is in the chat, as well as a feedback form. So I highly encourage our attendees to fill out that feedback form so we can continue to make these presentations better and more meaningful for you. And I want to especially thank our partners, John Edwards, Eric Bruvold, and a special thanks to our panelists. This concludes our presentation this evening. Within the next week, we'll send out an email to all of you who joined us tonight with a link to the recording, a PowerPoint presentation, and the resources on these industry sectors and the CUSD CTE pathways. So thank you for joining us and have a great evening.